Hello, welcome back. It's been a while, so let me make sure I have audio properly done here. Okay, so yes, it has been a while, and I'm hearing myself. So hold on just a minute. I told you I had audio issues. So is that any better? Yeah. No, it's not. I'm talking to myself. Have to go with it for now, I think. Alright. I thought maybe I was hearing myself on one of the streams, but I'm not. Okay, anyway. So it's been about a week. I've got a brand new setup. So you'll see me looking up because my chat's above me now. My audio may be a little off because I had some changes there, as you've noticed. And if you're hearing me twice, please let me know. Because I'm hearing an echo for myself. I may just I'll see how to fix that. Here we go. He's back. How about let that might have done it now. Hopefully you guys, you guys are doing okay, perfect. Noah, what's up, buddy? How was your birthday? So I think I'm audio down set now. So again, new setup. Last time I streamed, it's been about a week since I was here with you guys. I'm trying to get things set up, so bear with me as these first couple minutes as I get things taken care of. Today's going to be a different stream than I have been doing. I've noticed I've had Epic and Always Nice to know. I'm glad you had a great time. It was nice seeing you last night. I've talked to a bunch of my buddies about getting back into Magic because it's an old school nerdy kind of game for a lot of people. We used to play it in paper form growing up. Now we have it in digital form. I always had digital form for a while, but the Magic the Gathering Online was a little bit different. It had the same obstacles as far as getting into the game. There's a big price curve in order to be competitive. So a lot of people I've talked to about getting into it, I've kind of pitched Magic the Gathering Arena because I really like the business setup of it. But as I talked to several people about it, they're like, yeah, well, I just haven't played it forever. I don't quite, it took me a while to get back into it because I don't really remember how to play it. I don't remember how to build decks. So I thought, hey, that'd be a good place to start. So I'm going to walk through an introduction to Magic the Gathering, both for those of you who have not played it before, and for those of you who may be coming back from a couple years ago that are like, okay, don't really remember how to play, don't remember how to get into it. And I kind of walk you through how it all works, and then on top of that, I'll kind of walk you through, I mean, I've mentioned a couple times how the pricing model works, and kind of walk you through how you can get involved. Because a lot of the, like I said, the obstacles from the paper form is you go down to your local shop, you buy a starter deck, and you go, okay, cool, I'm ready to play. And you're up against a guy who spent $400 on their deck, and you get steamrolled. Which not only is not fun, but it's also very disheartening, and it pushes a lot of new players away. The way Magic the Gathering Arena works is because of the inability to go out and outright buy specific decks and cards, it's a little bit more easy for new players to get in. Now, you will run into decks that have been playing for several weeks, several months, because this came out back in September, I think. So you'll run into those occasionally, but most of those players are playing the ranked format, because that's where a lot of the rewards, the better rewards are, and that's where you get the biggest bang for your buck. But if you're just starting out, you're gonna stay away from ranked, but that doesn't mean you won't get new cards, new packs, new things. So, all that being said, I am going to fire up Magic Arena. Good thing I did have audio issues because I went to boot up Magic Arena. They had a huge update last night. apparently they were having graphical issues. So it's like a 3.5 gig update. So had I gone live when I was supposed to, it'd been sitting here just killing time while that downloaded. So let's okay, so I'm gonna walk you through this. Let's go to, I think that's kind of loud still. Again, bear with my audio stuff. Only because, as I said before, I'm trying to get the audio properly mixed here. I think that should help. I'll bring this up here. Alright, so I'm hoping. Yeah, okay. So let me show you what I'm looking at. There we go. So, when you first log into Magic the Gathering Arena, you won't see this screen. You're going to go through a series of tutorials that kind of walk you through how to play. It's fairly well done, but if you're trying to go ahead and get into it and you're like, okay, I don't want to necessarily be lost, I'm kind of still a little daunted by the fact of going into it, that's what this video is for today. So I'm going to play some bot matches with some basic decks and go from there. So what I will do is I'm going to pull up a deck here for you guys and kind of walk you through what a deck looks like. We'll work on building it later on. Let's see, let's go with this guy here. Okay, so in Magic the Gathering, you have different types of cards. You have basic lands, which I'll get to in a minute. Well, I guess just lands. Anyway, lands. That's what kind of gives you your in-game currency to play other things. That's what we call mana in Magic the Gathering. So and we'll see in a minute, as you play different lands in your turns, you are able to play different cards. So these little icons in the top right-hand corner, next to the word Bone Splitters, you see the skull icon. That is an example of the cost of a card. So when you look at a card, you'll see the name of the card at the top, the cost of the card at the top right. So this costs 1 skull, which is, we call that's black mana. So each mana has a different symbol. And you have the type of card in the middle, which we'll get to the types in just a second, and then you've got the actual, what the card does at the bottom. So this, in this case, is Bone Splinters. It costs 1 black mana. It's a sorcery card, and it says, as an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a creature. You can also destroy a target creature. Okay, so a lot of that will probably be foreign to you, and kind of not make much sense if you are new to the game, but let's kind of go over how that all works. So different types of cards are as follows. You have land, which, as I said before, you have different types of lands. So swamp will give you, as you see, that's with the big skull at the very bottom. Swamps will give you black mana. Mountains give you red mana. Forests give you green mana. Plains give you white mana. And islands give you blue mana. So when you're building a deck, and we'll go to deck building a little bit later in this broadcast. Oh, thanks for the feedback there. Thank you, Seth. Audio mix seems good. Perfect. As we go through this deck building, I'll show you how it works. But as you build your deck, you're going to put lands into your deck so that you actually have mana to spend on your spells. So that's the first type of card, is a land. Next major type of card is a creature. So creatures each have their own different cost in the top corner. Like this one is, let's go with the basic one here. Turtle. Okay. Aegis Turtle costs you 1 blue mana to play. There's his little picture there in the main part of the card. He's a creature dash turtle, so each creature has a different type, and those types become important when you're building a deck and synergies between the decks, so on and so forth. The other piece to notice in the bottom right-hand part of the card is what we call the power and toughness, 0/5. So if we go to like Erratic Visionary, he's 1/3. What that means is as he attacks another player or another creature, he can deal 1 damage. As the 3 being his toughness, he can take 3 damage before he dies. Now this is done on a per turn basis, so if he doesn't die on a turn, he gets all 3 hit points back. Daedrus Turtle is 05, so he can't deal any damage outright, but he can take up to 5 damage. So as we walk through what a game looks like and how it works, having a lot of toughness there, even if you can't attack, can be of your benefit. So you have a creature that costs 1, and all the way up to creatures that might cost, 4 and 2 blues, and So one of the things I didn't mention a few minutes ago was if you look at the cost of the cards, let's take this City Watch Sphinx for a moment, it has the number 5 with no color assigned to it. So as I said before, the blue raindrop would be for an island, for blue mana. That 5 there means you can spend any 5 type of mana to play it. So if you're playing just a blue deck with all islands, you can play 6 islands here to cast the City Watch Sphinx. If you're playing a multicolor deck, which it's very common to see, 2 colors in a deck. Even now, sometimes 3, but 2 is very common. Let's say I'm playing red and blue, so I have islands and I have mountains. I can play any combination of those 5, plus, but at least one of the 6 has to be an island. So I can play 5 mountains and 1 island. I can play 2 mountains and 4 islands. Anything that makes up a combination of 6, as long as one of them is a blue mana or an island. So that brings us to our colorless cards. Colorless cards don't have a specific mana type you have to cast. So this Prismite here costs 2 mana to play, but it can be any type of mana. It can be a blue and a red, it can be a green and a white, it can be 2 blues, it doesn't matter, just 2 mana to play it. So those are your creatures. Let me go back to a color here. Let's continue with, I think we're doing blue. Next are, let's go sorceries next. Sorceries are basically spells. So in the game of Magic the Gathering, you as a player, as a person, are what they call a planeswalker, a spellcaster, a wizard. So these are basically your spells you're casting. You are summoning creatures to attack. You are casting spells. So these cards here, sorcery cards, are spells you're going to cast. So divination costs you any 2 mana plus a blue mana. So total mana cost of 3, or what they call converted mana cost, and allows you to draw 2 cards. Very simple. What's another basic one? So Winged Words cost you 3 as well. It's a sorcery. This spell costs 1 less mana to cast if you control a creature flying. So as we get into more of the different types of creatures, I think I have... Do I have one in my deck? No, we'll go into it in a minute. Different creatures have different abilities on them. Some are able to fly, which we'll get to all the abilities in a second. This one will only cost 1 and a blue if you control a creature with flying on the battlefield. And then it says, okay, cool, draw 2 cards. So if you don't control a creature with flying, it would cost you 2 colorless and a blue. If you do, it costs you 1 colorless and a blue. So that's how sorcery works. There are spells to cast. But where sorcery is specific, it can only be cast when it's your turn. This will change in a second when we talk about instant cards. It can only be on your turn and not in the middle of actual battle being done. Very important. Because that is different than what instant cards are. Instant cards are able to be cast any time, basically. I mean, there's a few caveats where you can't, but it's any time you want to cast as long as you have the mana available. You can cast it. So, for example, Essence Scatter will cost you 1 colorless and a blue mana, a total of 2. It allows you to counter target creature spell. So, when it's not my turn, the only time you can cast creature spells is on your turn. So I'm playing against, Joe over here. Joe casts a creature spell on his turn. He summons a creature. I want to say, hey Joe, you can't do that. Because it's an instant and not a sorcery, I can cast it anytime it's my chance to respond. So I would cast this card and say, sorry Joe, you can't cast that spell. Another thing is, let's see, Summon here. Return target creature to its owner's hand. If you don't like they have this big beefy creature out there, he's going to start wrecking shop and totally take you out of the game. Even when it's their turn, even right after he summons him onto the battlefield, you can cast this as an instant and return it back to his hand. So hopefully that gives you some idea of the differences between instants and sorceries. It'll make more sense what you see the game going. Let's talk about enchantments. Enchantments there are two types. There's enchantments and there's enchantment auras. Enchantment by itself is something that just stays on the battlefield, that is just an ever-persistent effect unless it's removed from the battlefield. So let's look at one that's very... blue's not a very good one for here because I don't have a very good blue one. I need a very basic one. I don't have a lot of basic ones. There you go. Let's go with Sanctuary Lockdown. We won't get to the second half of it in a second, but for 2 and a white, I can place this on the battlefield. It's persistent. So remember I told you each creature has a type, like the one we looked at before was a turtle? Some creatures are humans. So as long as this is on the battlefield and it stays there until someone removes it, all the humans I control get +1/+1. Meaning, if it was a human with a power of 1 and a toughness of 2, with this on the battlefield, he is now a power of 2 and a toughness of 3. You know, we'll talk about the secondary effects here in a little bit when we get to the actual game. But that's the idea of a basic enchantment. It stays on the battlefield until it's removed. I don't have a lot of enchantments because I don't play enough decks that require enchantments. So let's talk about auras now. You know, if I was a little bit more prepared, I could have. Oh, here's a very basic one: dead weight. Enchantment aura is something you enchant a creature. So if you've played any sort of RPG, that sort of thing, you understand the concept of buffs or debuffs, something that alters the abilities and whatnot with the players, the creatures. So what auras do is they do exactly that. This also stays on the creature until the creature dies or the enchantment's removed. So in the case of dead weight, if I'm going up against let's say just a 3/3 creature, very basic, and I were to play this enchant creature, that now becomes a 1/1 because it's -2/-2, and that stays on there. It's persistent until it's removed or the creature dies. If the creature dies, let's say I kill that now 1/1 the next turn, the enchantment aura now goes to my discard pile, and so the creature goes to his. He doesn't get to keep the enchantment. I don't get to keep his creature. We just each put it in our discard pile. This brings us to one of the things that make enchantments interesting and make instants and sorcerers interesting that have a minus value on it. So if we go back, that has a -2/-2. If we go back to let's say instant, target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn. So this is basically the same card I just showed you, except this is not persistent. This only lasts until the end of the turn. So if they are a 3/3 and I mentioned that the toughness counts how many hit points, and I have a toughness of 2 on my creature, this would be very good to play against their creature because it makes them a 1/1. And now they're only doing 1 damage to my 2 toughness creature. A little bit more complex until we get into the actual game. But now is a good time to talk about what happens when your hit points hit 0. Well, in a battle, it's very easy. You have a creature that does 2 damage. I have a creature that only has 2 toughness. You do that damage, my creature dies. Very simple. How this works is, let's say they have a creature that has 2 toughness, and you either don't have a creature who can kill it, or different scenarios where you just don't want that creature to be there. If you play this card Disfigure on it, it gets -2/-2 in a turn. Well, if it only has 2 toughness, it becomes a toughness of 0, which means their hit points are 0. It means it dies instantly. So that's how you can play a minus toughness card in your favor. So that's what I'll go over now. I'm not going to talk about artifacts for planeswalkers currently because those are a little bit nuanced and a little bit more complex as far as when you're first starting out the game. So let's go ahead, and I'll go ahead into a match here against some bots. I'll go through a basic. Let's go 2 colors here. And by all means, if you have questions, please hop into chat, ask them, please fire away. If you are watching this after the fact and you have questions, feel free to hit me up on Twitter. You see it's right below me, it's at RexelTGD. Hit me up on Instagram, RexelGamerDad. All of that, just so I can answer your questions. Let's go here. Settings. Okay. Bear with me just a second. Just want to make sure that okay. So I'm going to be playing a blue-black deck. So you can these symbols tell you what kind of cards are in the deck, and we'll get to deck building and after this match is done. But I want to walk you through the basics of how to play. So I'm going to play a bot match here, and I'm going to be up against Sparky, who's your basic bot.
It's a game, so remember to have fun.
Alright, so you start with 7 cards in your hand. If you don't like the 7 cards, we'll talk about mulliganing once we build our deck and what have you. But 7 cards is what you start out with, and you cannot go over 7 cards at the end of your turn. So if I have 9 or 10 cards in my hand, at the end of my turn, I have to discard to get down to 7. So 7 is your maximum hand size.
You're doing great.
So I have 2 islands, which are blue mana. I have a swamp, which is black mana. Then I have a creature, which costs me a blue and a black to play.
I wonder what your favorite card is.
Can I mute you? I can't mute you. I have another creature with a blue and a black. I have a sorcery with blue and a black. And I have another sorcery with one colorless, a blue and a black. So at the beginning of your turn, you have what's called the... first you draw a card at the beginning of your turn, outside the very first turn of the game.
Keep going.
And then your first play is called the main phase. So you have the upkeep and draw step. You have the main phase. In your main phase, you can cast a land, 1 land per turn. You can cast any sorceries. As I mentioned before, sorceries can only be played during your turn and not in the middle of battle. You can play any instance. You can play any creatures. So in order to be able to cast anything, we have to have mana to play them. So with this being a blue and a black, I need to have at least 1 island and 1 swamp out there. So let's start with playing island. And I'm going to pause this. I wish I could pause it. It's going way too fast. Okay. I'm going to start pausing at every... Let's stop it in a turn.
Let's get moving.
Alright, so recap since that was really fast. I didn't have stops placed in. I played an island, but I didn't have anything in my hand that I could play and just for 1 island. So I had to end my turn.
Keep with it. You're doing great.
The bot played a mountain, which gives them 1 red mana. They were able to spend the red mana, which we call tapping. So spend the red mana, that's what the arrow is, he tapped it, to play Scorch Spitter. See, Scorch Spitter costs you 1 red mana to play. So he used his 1 mana by tapping it, and then played the Scorch Spitter. It's a 1/1 elemental lizard creature that says whenever Scorch Spitter attacks, it deals 1 damage to the player, or the planeswalker it's attacking. Planeswalkers we'll talk about later on. But what you may also be able to see on your screen, maybe a little difficult, you can see a little swirl going on the Scorch Spitter right now. Aside from having a specific ability, anytime you play a creature spell, put a creature on the battlefield, it cannot attack or use any abilities on that first turn. So he may have played the Scorch Spitter, but it cannot attack me. And I say activated abilities, let's talk about that. So when a creature attacks, it will have to tap or turn, like the mana did, to attack. The reason why you can't use any activated abilities or anything that causes it to tap is because it's not allowed to tap on its first turn. It's not allowed to tap to attack or tap to new spells. So if we look at my House Guild Mage, it may be hard to see because it doesn't blow up as big until I actually cast it. Actually, you know what? Let's cast it.
You can do this.
I'm gonna play a Swamp. So I digress. He played Scorch Spitter. It can't attack, so he ended his turn. My turn. I drew a card. I drew Artful Takedown, which is an instant. I can either tap a target creature, or target creature gets -2/-4 until end of turn. I can't play it because it costs 2 colorless, a blue, and a black.
I win. But
I'm gonna play a black. So now I have blue mana and a black mana. So these 3 cards you see highlight blue around it means I can actually play them. They each cost me a blue and a black to play, and I have those available. I am going to
what your favorite card is.
play House Guild Mage. And let's see if I can stop. I want to...
You're doing great.
I want to take all of these. I'll say show full control guy. Let's just do that.
You've got to learn to planes walk before you can planes run.
Okay, so I'm going to play House Guild Mage. Alright, again, this may be a little easier to see. It's a 2/2 creature, human wizard. For 1 and a blue mana and tap. That's what the symbol means, tap. That's you see that over here. Target creature is not untapped during its control or untapped step. I'll get to what all that means in a second. But because it requires you to tap it in order to use the ability, that's what we call an activated ability. It can't do that on the first turn. So when I play it, it can't tap to attack or tap to use an ability.
Ever think about the multiverse?
I really wish you could turn off the bot speaking. That's really, I mean, it's nice because it's interaction, what have you, but don't know the way. So this tells me in order to play it, I need to pay a blue and a black. So in order to pay mana, as I said before, we tap the mana. So here's the blue one. It taps. Okay, cool. I still need to pay a black one. Tap the swamp. Okay, perfect. Now I have a 2/2 out here that has a tappable ability, but it also has a swirl on it now as well. Meaning I can't play it. Or I can't attack with it.
I can see your hand.
As you see, the blue lines went away from the Demir Spybug and Thought Erasure because I've already used the blue and the black mana this turn.
You've got to learn to planes walk.
I can't attack.
You can planes run.
So next phase is the combat phase after you do your first main. Combat. Attackers. I can't attack. So I end my turn. Walk through what he just did again. He played another mountain. Give him 2 red mana. He played Goblin Bird Grabber, which is a 1 colorless and a red. He used 2 red mana to play. And then it comes out with Summoning Sickness, which is what we called, the first turn he played. It's got Swirl. Scorch Spitter did not have a Swirl. He could have attacked with Scorch Spitter if he wanted to. Whenever it attacked, it would have done 1 damage to the player who was attacking, which is me. But he'd have been attacking into me, and I have a 2/2 creature. How attacks work. Let's talk about combat. Well, actually, let me get to my turn. We'll talk about combat. I drew a swamp. I will go ahead and play a swamp. So now I have 2 black mana and a blue mana.
Whoa! Oh, sorry.
So now I can play Demir Spybug again. I can play Thought Erasure again. Or I could play Unmoored Ego.
Got anything good over there?
Alright, so let's talk about combat real quick. I'm going to end up dying here, but we're going to do it anyway. So first main phase, I can play a land, which I did. I can play any sorcery, which I have a couple I can play. but I'm deciding to go to combat next. Choose your attackers. So, as a player in Magic, you are allowed to declare who's attacking the other player. So I can attack Sparky with anybody who does not have Summoning Sickness. I cannot choose which creature to attack. So if you're coming over from, say, Hearthstone, that's going to be a major change for you. Hearthstone, you're able to attack the creatures, but I don't want to go into that. Let's talk about Magic only. I'm going to select House Guild Mage as my creature. I'm basically commanding, as the player, that the creature I summoned, House Guild Mage, attacks Sparky. I'm going to have to stop after all these. Okay.
Whoa!
So I'm going to attack.
Sorry. Thought I saw something.
So after I declare who I'm attacking, it is up to Sparky to say, okay, I can declare who I'm going to block. Who's going to go out there as one of my creatures to say, hey, go block the Guild Mage. Imagine you're in a war. You're sending your cavalry out there to block their attack. So Goblin Bird Grabber is a 2 power, 1 toughness creature. He's going to block my 2 power, 2 toughness Guild Mage. So I'm going to deal 2 damage to his 1 toughness, which means he will die. But damage is simultaneous in Magic. So he's going to do 2 damage to my 2 toughness, and my House Guild Mage is going to die. So we're going next to deal damage. I deal 2 damage there, he deal 2 damage back, and they're both dead. That is damage resolving. Now we can go to end of combat. After combat, I have a second main phase. So we had a main phase before combat, now we have one on the back end of combat. Anything I can play in the first main, I can still play in the second main. So, I'm going to play Demeter Spybug.
Thought I saw something.
Good time to talk about abilities. So, I had mentioned very briefly earlier that there was a, I think it was a sorcery that we saw cost you 1 less mana to play if you have a creature with flying. Well, as you see Spybug hovering here, if I look at what the card says, he has flying and menace. The cool thing about Magic the Gathering Arena is we have all of these, we call them keywords, that alter what a card would normally do. So this Spybug has flying, which means the creature can't be blocked except creatures with flying or reach. So if I were to attack with Spybug next turn, Scorch Spitter cannot block it because I'll just fly right over top of him. Menace. A creature with menace can't be blocked except by 2 or more creatures. You saw that the Goblin Bird Grabber blocked my House Guild Mage last turn. If that were to happen, if Menace were on House Guild Mage, he wouldn't have been able to block it. Because it has to be blocked by 2 or more creatures if you have Menace.
I can see your hand.
So that's the keywords. Unwritten, well, actually it's written in the rule book, but the rule of Magic is these are the rules unless a card breaks the rules. Then the card takes precedent. So the rule is you can only block, you can block with 1 creature or as many creatures as you want to. You can block a single creature attacking. Menace breaks that rule. Menace says a creature with menace can't be blocked. End turn. He'll draw a card. He's going to play another mountain. He's going to play Fire Urchin. Let's talk about Fire Urchin before we do this. So it has a keyword on it that says trample. Trample is a keyword that says a creature with trample can deal excess damage. Okay. Hold on. I wish they would have... I'm going to make sure I... This is getting out of hand here. Let me try to walk you through what just happened. Fire Urchin. Let's finish talking about this. Trample says a creature with trample can deal excess combat damage to the player or planeswalker it's attacking. So let's go back to the House Guild Mage, which was a 2/2,
Gotta learn to planeswalk
and his
before we
Goblin
can
Bird Grabber, which is
planeswalk.
2/1. So I dealt 2 damage to his 1 Bird Grabber that defended. That takes him down to 0, and any excess damage is normally moot. Okay, fine, I could do 15 damage. If he blocks with a creature that only has 1 toughness, that other 14 damage is for naught. Well, what trample says is any excess damage by an attacking creature will move forward to the player. So if I had trample on my house guild mage and it did 2 damage to the bird grapper, 1 would go to the bird grapper, which would kill it, and the other 1 would go through to the player. Okay, that was what the card played was.
Let's get moving.
He then turned around, because that cost him 1 in a red. He had 1 red left over. He only paid 2 of them. He then cast the spell Shock, which cost him his final red, and it deals 2 damage to any target. He cast it on my Demir Spybug, which only has a toughness of 1 hit point. It killed it, so it removed it from the battlefield to what we call the graveyard, the discard pile.
I hope I win. But
last but not least, that was his first main phase. He went to combat. He attacked, which you can see it's, got the tap symbol on it. He attacked with Scorch Spitter. Whenever it attacks, it deals 1 damage. Period. In the story. So it dealt 1 damage to me, bringing me down to 19. It then went to do its actual attack, and I have no creatures now to block because he took the Spybug off the battlefield. So that 1 damage was unblocked and went straight to me. So I'm down from 20 to 18 now. He was out of mana for his second main phase, so his turn was over. Hopefully I've got it set up now where we can slow this down, but hopefully I explained it well also. My turn again. At the beginning of your turn, any creature, we have what's called the upkeep and draw step. So before you even draw a card, everything you've had tapped, unless there's an ability that doesn't allow it to untap, such as, oh, that was on my Dreamers. Where was that?
You're doing great.
Oh, that was on my guild mage. The target creature is not untapped during its control's next untap step. So at the beginning of your upkeep, the beginning of your turn, everything that was tapped gets to untap. Mana, creatures, everything. So if you tap with a creature that's tapped, it untaps. Then you draw a card. I drew Nightveil Predator, which has flying, death touch, and hexproof.
Let's get moving.
We're going to actually play that card. So I'm going to play an island. This will give me 2 blue and 2 black. Now, because I have 2 blue and 2 black, I can actually play this card that I just drew. Nightveil Predator. Alright, so it has flying, death touch, and hexproof. So we already talked about flying. Flying says it can't be blocked except for creatures with flying or reach. Death touch. Any amount of damage a source death touch deals to a creature is enough to destroy it. So, in the event that the Nightveil Predator attacks and is blocked by, let's say, a 6/6, I'm only 3/3. Traditionally speaking, the 6/6 would kill my Nightveil Predator, and it would still live to see another day, because it still has 3 toughness left over after my attack. What Death Touch does is, anytime it deals damage at all to a creature, it destroys it. So it doesn't matter if it's attacking, it's blocked by a 1/1, or blocked by a 10/10. Nightveil Predator will kill it. Now, if it's blocked by a 1/1, it will kill it, regardless of that Death Touch. But let's say it was a 1/5. It would not kill it. Unless it has Death Touch. Because that's 5 hit points, I'm dealing 3 damage. Done. Conversely, let's say it's a 5/1 instead of a 1/5. It does 5 damage to me, which would actually kill my Nightveil Predator. And I would deal 3 outright to kill it again. The one piece I haven't talked about is, again, 10/10. I said I would kill it because I have Death Touch. Just because I kill it doesn't mean its damage doesn't come back to me. If it's a 10/10, it's going to kill my Nightveil Predator even though I killed it with Death Touch. Hopefully that was about as clear as mud. But again, I'm here for questions. Put them up in chat. Hit me up, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and it will walk you through a lot of this as you go through the tutorial. Last but not least, the other ability on Nightveil Predator is Hexproof. Hexproof cannot be the target of spells or abilities your opponent controls. So that shock spell he did earlier, deal 2 damage to any target. He could not target Nightveil Predator because it can't be the target because that's Hexproof. That's all that says.
Keep going.
I use all 4 mana on my main phase. It has Summoning Sickness because it's the first turn I played it, so I cannot attack with it. Second main phase, I have no more mana to spend, so it goes right to my end phase. I will pass. It drew a card. It untapped its Scorch Splitter, untapped its mana. That's going to play another mountain. Okay. So it has 4 mana. It's going to pay 3 of that mana to play Fearless Halberdier. It's a 3/2 human warrior that costs 3 to play. Done with his main phase, he's moving to combat. So now he has a 1/1, a 1/3 with trample, and a 3/2.
It's important to take your time.
So now he is going to